Welcome to this video on Virtual Optimizer Pro. In this video, we're going to take a very high-level look at Virtual Optimizer and the resources that it can provide you. This is our home page. This is where your pivot status and probe status will show up at a glance if your pivots and your probes are linked to the platform. On the Maps page, you can see all of your fields at one time via Google Image, and you can also see pivot status or moisture probe status at a glance across the map if you so desire. Fields tab is where all of your fields will pull up so that you can see them in a list view all at once. And you'll also see the crop planted, the acres, and of course county, etc. All information that's needed for the system to work properly. In your Pivots tab, any pivots that you have set up and are connected to the platform are available here. In the VRI tab, this is where we would create all of our variable rate irrigation prescriptions. In the Settings tab is actually where you give access to managing agents, and you can also set up email or text message notifications for yourself, your agronomist, or any other individual that you may be working with. The Helps tab will actually take you to a support site where you can get quick information about how to use different services inside of Virtual Optimizer. There's also some good articles in here that pertain to basic irrigation information. And then of course the Logout tab. Let's take a look at the meat and potatoes of the VO Pro platform. Under the Fields tab, we will choose a field that currently has a crop planted on it. Virtual Optimizer as a whole is an irrigation forecasting platform. It will work with or without a moisture probe. So everything that you're seeing on this platform right now, you can have access to, even if you do not have moisture probes in every field. So let's take a look at this and see what kind of value it can bring you, even without a probe. Of course, weather plays a very big part in the decision making for irrigation. So one of the first components that we look at is weather. The platform is bringing in a weather forecast to drive an irrigation forecast. Let's look at how that all comes together and how it can help you be more precise in your irrigation scheduling. Of course, when looking at weather, it needs to correlate with a crop model. Our crop model has the ability to move and adjust as needed as weather causes certain challenges. As we know, crop models don't always fit from year to year. So this crop model is designed to adjust so that you as a grower or your agronomist can make the adjustments as necessary to keep your system in tune and working right. When the crop model is adjusted, the irrigation forecast is adjusted. The irrigation forecast is working off of historical data. It's also working off of your particular crop's GDUs. Now, as you begin to look at evapotranspiration and crop growth stage, that's how you get an irrigation forecast. If you look at this graph, there are several things that we want to highlight here. Beginning back at the left-hand side of the graph, these light blue colored columns indicate days that it rained, where we had different rain events. A couple of things show up here that we need to be aware of. Early season, there was a lot of rain. The blue line indicates that there's very little activity going on with the crop model. And The light blue line is also showing that that date in history has already passed. As we move forward and we come into today's date, you'll see that the blue line and the dotted blue line are slightly disconnected. So we're in the present time between these two lines. The dotted blue line indicates a forecast. It's indicating when the plant will begin to use more water and when the plant, based upon root depth, based upon crop growth stage, this forecasted model will determine when we need our first irrigation event. According to this, it will be on the 19th of June, assuming we don't get any more rainfall. If we irrigate at this point in time, you will see an increase in the need for more water, and then you'll see a decrease as the plant pulls it down, and we need to irrigate again. And now you're getting into that July time frame when it's starting to get hot, crop growth stage is much higher, and there's going to be a lot more need for irrigation. However, following the crop models of specific hybrids, you'll see that there's a time in each of the crop growth stages of different hybrids when there are gaps. There's times based upon weather patterns, based upon hybrids and genetics, that you won't need as much irrigation. And then also, as we head into this pollination time frame, we want no risk to the plant. So we want to make sure that the plant is as healthy as possible, which means the right amount of water in the soil profile and the right amount of oxygen in the soil profile. So it's important that the crop growth stage and the weather data feeding these models are accurate so that our irrigation forecasting is accurate to keep the health of the soil strong so our plants can have easy access to water and to nutrients. As we get on through the season, you'll begin to see that there's less and less of a need for irrigation as the plant matures, and it will eventually fade out of irrigation need at all as we come close to full maturity. So this is the irrigation forecast that works without a moisture probe. It's really that simple. If you have moisture probes, if you have pivots with telemetry systems on them, or if you have a rain gauge in the field, or maybe a weather station that you would like to link, you can link those systems in here and enhance these models. Moving down a little farther, we have an allocation gauge. This allocation gauge allows you to set in an allocation if you're under allocation, but you could also use this to manage profit margin if you'd so desire. We're also going to be looking at a rainfall history, and it's here that you can also edit rain events or add rain events if you so desire. Moving on down, we're looking at the full prediction of irrigation that's needed, and at the same time we're tracking all the rain events that happen throughout the season. So this is a record-keeping system that is going to create a historical record on your field. As that historical record begins to grow and develop a database, you'll be able to build field-specific averages for each field, for each crop, for each yearly system. As you begin to go into the future with field-specific averages, you'll be able to make more informed decisions based on the records that you have kept over the last several years. Here is when we start to look at field records and information that is taking place on the field at any given time. So here we're actually tracking all of the different rain events that have happened over the last few months, regardless of how big or how small they are. If there's a new record that you'd like to add, you can add it here. A field record is not just rain events, but it may be an irrigation event. It may be a a rainfall that you want to keep track of. It may be field work that you've done that you'd like to keep track of. And general observation is just a way that you can put notes in and keep track of specific things in the field as you see fit. Remember, this platform is about irrigation record keeping. So anything that you put in here is going to be there for the long term. It's being saved over the history of this platform. So that's about it for the Fields tab, and that's really the internal design of Virtual Optimizer Pro. In another video, we'll open up and take a look at the Pivots tab and how you can begin tracking expenses. And we'll also begin to look at the VRI, how you can create application systems that work with your irrigation forecasting and work with your irrigation scheduling system. So look for those videos inside of the Knowledge Center.